You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning, and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and Episode number 119 of the Daily Beaver here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Monday, May 15th, 2023, and, it looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. And if you happen to be wondering what's going on behind me, we're painting. So there's the TV, and we put some stuff under it to make sure it stays nice and okay. We kind of got tired of waiting for things to happen because we sort of been renovating for the better part of 2 years now. But it took us a year and something. We got our final quote last week.
Wow.
Last week,
That was
submitted everything to wait to see. So, and the other day we went out to get some sushi. And as we were there was a guy that does concrete there, and we got a card. We've been trying to get a whole full year to get somebody to come here to look under the abandoned shed,
right.
The background that we're looking to transform to a studio. And it's like, we couldn't find anybody at all to come and give us a quote on a concrete pad.
Wow.
Since August 2021.
That's, yeah.
The guy's coming this week. So, we're painting. I'm not particularly handy, but one thing I do really well is paint walls for some reason. Ceilings, I learned when we moved in, are a whole other thing.
And there's an artwork to it. It's a skill set. It is.
Somebody told me that the trick is to find the way that the light's coming into the room and paint from the light away.
That would make sense, yeah.
I hadn't had a chance to try it because I had already done them all the wrong way first. And I said, I'm not doing that again.
So next time.
Yeah, really. Next house. The number of times I look up when I'm in the living room, nobody will do it.
Next house. Dude, finish this one first, man.
Yeah, that's true. But no, we'll take care of that with moonlighting.
Okay.
Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss Fee Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And Kit Jim says the trick is to find an expert and let them fuck it up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We have a Monday morning, I guess, bite. Mr. Grizzly,
Well,
or is it a nibble?
I do have to go into the office, but I don't need to be in there till 9:30. So yeah, we
Okay.
we got some time.
We'll call it a bite. Now, before we continue here, we'll say, of course, good morning to you, Mr. Grizzly, and ask you how your mental health is doing today.
Well, good morning. Let me just adjust something here. The focus seems to be off on my camera for some reason. I don't know why.
No, you look fine.
Okay, there we go. I am feeling considerably better today than I have in the last couple. My allergies really kicked my butt this weekend. I spent most of Saturday in bed, and same with a good chunk of Sunday. I just was feeling like garbage. And Saturday morning, I went to bed early. Friday night, I watched got off the pod with you and James and Jenny, who I understand has changed Casual Fridays forever.
It appears so, yes.
I watched
Oh, that a woman.
the end of the hockey game and went straight to bed. And I mean, the game was on for like 10 minutes, and then that was it. They were done. The Leafs were eliminated. So Saturday morning, I woke up early like I normally do, and rolled out of bed at 7. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make some coffee and get to work on the housework. I made some coffee. I sat down on the couch. I drank a coffee, and I'm like, nope, I haven't got it. I've got no gas in the tank. I don't have the energy to turn on the vacuum right now. It's like, and I was out like a light for a few hours. I was just, it felt like, and it hit hard on Friday because I went to the pub and I was only there for about 90 minutes. And I'm like, guys, I got to go. My allergies are just beating the hell out of me. And there's trees, the patio, it's all covered in trees, right? Well, of course, it's just raining pollen down on me. So yeah, I was not doing well. So yeah, it's been a rough couple of days. And of course, I was talking to my neighbor Justin the other day, and he was telling me that because it's the tulip festival, and he says there's a type of pollen that's released from the tulips that is apparently really bad, which I didn't know this. And he goes,
I'm learning this too.
he said, I just learned about this morning. I go, that would make sense then. He goes, yeah, because this weekend has been extra heavy. He says, so, that's probably what it is. I'm like, oh, anyway, hopefully, and no, not Justin Trudeau. No, just a neighbor in my building. That's his name. Hey, Justin, how you doing, brother? He watches the program.
Hi, Justin. My Beaver sweetie was disappointed that the pubcast was canceled because he was thinking of coming down, and he really loves tulips. Ferdinand the Bull?
Yeah.
He just wanted to like sit somewhere and just like watch the flowers and smell them. That's my sweetie.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
totally my sweetie. So like we go to the tulip festival, and if I didn't stop him, he would literally put his nose in every single one to see what each one smells like.
Oh, yeah. So we have this thing at work where they bring in different. We have like mental health programs, and we have a program called Mosaic, which wants to bring people from different walks of life together to have conversations about how we can make the world a better place, basically. And we always bring in a counselor, and one of the counselors brings in this, and I think they're about to change the program because 4 times they brought this photo in of a flower garden. And what's the first thing you think of when you see this? And my first thought is, I'm turning and walking in the opposite direction because that is hell for me. Well, it turns out that many people felt the same way and said exactly that. So I think they're going to change it because they're realizing, they're like, well, what do you mean? I suffer from terrible allergies. That would be just hell for me. I don't want to be anywhere near that. And there'd be about a dozen people that would chime in, and I'd be looking at the chat going like, yeah, that might not be the best photo to display, especially today, maybe 40 years ago, but it's like, this isn't that a welcoming flower bed? No, it's not. It's suffering for me.
See flowers and you hear the violins from Psycho.
Basically, yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Oh man. All right. Good morning, Kit Elaine. Good morning, Kit Tabby G. Good morning, Kit Ellen. Good morning, Kit Jillian. Good morning, Kit Saucy. Good morning, Kit Danielle. And your blue eyes. Good morning, Kit Jim. Good morning. Is that everybody? Oh, no. Kit Dean. Lovely to see you. Kit Mohan as well. Thank you for joining us. And you might be wondering, as Mr. Grizzly was before we went live, why I'm wearing
Poppy.
this little
Yeah,
thing
you're
here.
not supposed to, after
Yeah.
Remembrance Day, you're supposed to remove it. I'm kind of like, what's up with that?
Well, just because someone doesn't wear one.
Ah, right. DS.
Just thought
Yeah.
that it might be a little way to signify that I'm not with her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's kind of a pretty terrible person when you get right down to it. She,
Hmm.
I think the reason she is in the position that she's in is because she represents the hatred of a group of people. And she is the velvet glove, I think, that they could best come up with, because she's
Mhm.
able to deliver her message in this way that, sort of commands your attention, because she is a media personality. But there's always a video clip, isn't there, sir?
There's always a video clip. And we do have some today.
Yes, we do.
We do have some today. But before we get to that, two things that happen. Number one, the Stanley Cup is over.
Well, for Canada, anyway.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned. As usual, Bettman let us have 2 rounds. And
Yeah.
anyway, so yes, it's over. But the most important thing, of course, is the fact that our fellow citizens, our brothers and sisters, are going through some pretty frightening times. Last time we were here, there had been some wildfires in Saskatchewan, but they seem to have been under control. A lot of them in Alberta, and some floods in British Columbia. Over the course of the weekend, we now have some fires in British Columbia to go along with the hot temperature that's accelerating a melt that was already pretty fast
Yeah.
on your steroids already. And we have fires in Northwest Territories as well. And we have fires in Nova Scotia.
We're on fire. And not in the Jimi Hendrix kind of way.
So, José Salange of the Alberta Wildfire Service said, while some wildfires grew yesterday, overall our firefighters were able to hold their ground, but they will be challenged again today. Our peak burning period, which is when the temperatures are at their highest and the fuels are at their driest, is still in front of us. Temperatures are expected to drop back into the mid-teens, into the teens by midweek, but currently they are in the 30s up in north and central Alberta.
Wow.
And there are about 89 wildfires, about 27 of them are out of control, and blazes have now started in the south, which has Alberta Wildfire Services saying they may need to reconsider their resources to allow for more timely and flexible responses, which,
Not good.
as a former communications person, may potentially mean you people in the north may have to wait a little longer, because we might need to divert stuff to protecting things in the south where there are more bodies. I'm not saying that that's what that means, but
Certainly looks like it.
there is a possibility. There are a lot of people on the ground in Alberta There are 300 members of the military. There are 1,500 wildland firefighters on the ground. There's been a call. There's 200 more expected from the United States. There's been a call for another 1,500. I think I said 300 members of the military as well. There's a lot of people on the ground. There's just a lot of fire.
A lot of fire.
There's just a lot of fire, and now there is, well, because there are fires in other places, there are firefighters are needed there, so there are fewer that can respond to the calls.
Thinner all the time.
Yeah. It's crucial to pack an emergency kit for a week or more with essential items if you're living there in the area. Alberta Wildfire Services has cautioned for that. They also said if you get an evacuation order, please do, because people are so busy that they may not be able to come back around to get you.
What Mohan says here in the chat, I don't remember wildfires this early in the year. And I'm like, it's really, really early in the season for wildfires.
It is. Wildfire season can go from March to October, according to specialists in the Alberta, but there's usually not very much at either end.
It's usually June, July, August, right?
So this is early. There hasn't been a lot of rain, and if there is little rain in June, it's already predicted that these fires can continue pretty much nonstop until the fall. It's the Gardner River Cree Nation is experimenting with evacuations in other areas of their First Nation, which is a new thing because usually First Nations are the first to be evacuated, and they're often evacuated several hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers away from their homes.
Fort Mac was 7 years ago.
Yeah, 3 new evacuation orders have been issued in the past 24 hours. Albertans in Yellowhead County have been reporting that they've been feeling abandoned by their government. They have many volunteer fire services, but they do not have experience with wildfires.
That's not good.
Yeah. Then in Nova Scotia, there's a wildfire in the Little Harbor area in Shelburne County. The Department of Natural Resources says that the size of the fire is approximately 10 hectares. 2 helicopters, departmental staff, and volunteer firefighters are on the scene. 8 homes had been evacuated there at the last news update I got. That was before going to bed last night. I haven't heard anything more this morning, so things may have changed since then. As well, let's see, in the Northwest Territories, there's been an evacuation for Katladoche First Nation, which has a fire burning fewer than 2 kilometers away. People have been sent to an evacuation center in Hay River, which is about 20 kilometers away. That fire quickly grew from 1 hectare yesterday to 15 by noon yesterday, to 65 by the evening, to so big they really can't tell how it is, and the fire services over there have had to pull back. Multiple crews were on the fire early, joined by aircraft, multiple helicopters and dozers working to build a line around the fire. And the air tankers were expected, but it just grew so much, says Mike Westwick of Northwest Territory Wildfire Information. He says that the likelihood of structural damage on the First Nation is very high, and that winds are contributing to severe fire behavior. The outbreak is suspected to have been caused by a person. 2 communities have evacuated, 3,500 evacuees. That's in the Northwest Territories.
Right.
3,500.
That's a lot for a population base of what, 43,000? No, it's more than that, but not much more than that.
Yeah, there's about 4,000 people, I believe, in Hay River itself. So, but this is not Hay River. They've evacuated there. So there's a relief center for evacuees at the multiplex in Yellowknife, and there's another one at the Hay River Community Center.
Because Yellowknife is the largest population center. I think it's what, 20,000 about that, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's growing.
I've been there. It's a beautiful place.
I'm dying to go. Maybe that's the wrong term. I really want to go to Yellowknife. I want to go, at this time of the year, like June, July, August sort of thing. But I literally, I could go to South Africa for 2 weeks for less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Little known fact, however, when I was there, it's the city in Canada with the most blues bars per capita.
The most what?
Most blues bars.
Oh,
per
blues
capita.
bars. I heard blue
Yeah.
stars, and I'm like, what? What do you mean blue star?
But that was like 20 years ago when I
Newfoundland
went or
beer,
something.
Blue Star? It's a beer from Newfoundland, Blue Star.
Yes. Let's see, what else do we have here? Colin Blair, the executive director of Alberta Emergency Management Agency, says this situation represents a significant and unpredictable threat to many communities in our province. Fires are located mostly in northern and central Alberta, but the risk was increasing in the south. In British Columbia, there have been evacuation orders for the town of Lytton,
BC, which
and Lytton First Nation again
set the temperature record for Canada last year. What did they hit? 52 degrees or something like that?
Yeah.
And that wasn't humidity. That was the air temperature.
Yeah. And Fort St. John, David Richmond of Prince George Fire Center said, so currently we are experiencing some very hot and dry conditions across the Prince George Fire Center with above average seasonal temperatures, and we're expecting our current fire behavior to remain consistently high. We did have a number of new starts yesterday. Yeah.
It's not good. It's all bad.
That's the fire.
Yeah.
And then there are the floods. In the Yukon Territory, the Klondike River, the ice jam has come apart, but they're expecting that the levels will fluctuate very much over the course of the 5 days. There's 2 districts or areas that have been evacuated already. But yeah, the ice jam has come undone there. And then, of course, in British Columbia, well, like I said, the accelerated snow melt as a result of those fires is not going to help over there as well. So yeah, we have a lot of people who are going through a lot of things.
Indeed.
And
well, the accusation hurled across the aisle. Yeah. I wrote about it. It's
talked about it a little bit.
It's in the write-up there, but we've got the video clip. It's the full clip. It's 1 minute and 29 seconds of Pierre in the house spewing more garbage, and then a rebuttal. And during the rebuttal, you can hear him shout, and we will highlight it for you. You can hear him shout, started by your government. Or did he say started by the Liberals or started by your government? I can't remember exactly, but
I think started by your government.
So let's just view this, and here we go.
He's woke, and so Canadians are broke, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you what woke means in practice. I'll tell you what woke means in practice. His government approved dumping millions of liters of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. That's what woke means. Woke means charging a single mom higher costs to drive to work and feed her kids while the Prime Minister jets around using Canadian tax dollars pumping emissions into our atmosphere. That is the woke hypocrisy across the way. And if he's got the guts to tell the truth, will he tell us how much will carbon tax 2 cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Family.
Mr. Speaker, what's exceptionally disappointing from the Leader of the Opposition is that at a time when families in Alberta are experiencing some of the worst wildfires in their history, he's...
Did you hear him? Started by your government.
Do it again?
I'll just back it up a little bit. You can hear him say it.
Oh my God.
He did. He said it. Started by your government. I'm not making this up. When I first read about it, I thought, oh no, that can't be right. He didn't actually say that. He said it.
So he took the stuff that was going on provincially and decided to bring it into the House of Commons federally and amplify it.
Railing against policies that are helping helping to fight climate change. Mr. Speaker, when he talks about that single mom, unfortunately, he has opposed sending her the Canada Child Benefit, which has put thousands of dollars in her pocket. And he's also opposed the child care agreements that are supporting families across this country save thousands of dollars. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the environment, when it comes to supporting families, we know where the leader of the opposition.
The Honourable.
I mean, come on. Like, to begin with, everything she said is true. Every word she said is true. He was against the Child Care Act. He was against the $10 a day daycare. He's against the dental plan. He's against anything that would help lift up the boats that are sitting on the bottom of the harbor. He is against anything that will help those who need a hand up. He is against anything that will cost him a penny, which, by the way, he doesn't have to spend any money because he lives in a 30-room mansion that we all pay for. And I heard that and I'm like, he really said that. Like, what the hell, man? Like, how can you say that and think that anybody would ever take you seriously after that? I mean, let's listen to it again. I think it's right about here.
Of the opposition is that at a time when families in Alberta are experiencing some of the worst wildfires in their history, he's
started by your government.
And that's unmistakably his voice.
Unmistakably his voice. And apparently there's another camera angle where it shows him in his seat pointing at her saying it.
All right. Well, that goes hand in hand with this, Mr. Grizzly.
Why is Trudeau erasing her history? There will be no loyalty except loyalty towards the party, 1984.
And then the quoted one?
They erase the past to control the future. Yes, I see that the document...
Andrew Scheer retweeting Pierre Poilievre.
The document, you know, the official government document that we use for traveling, it's the only way I've ever learned about Canadian history. And it's, you know, only since 2014 that I've been able to learn about Canadian history because, you know, there's no books or museums or historic establishments or societal groups that talk about our history. There's no books like Vimy by Pierre Burton. There's no movies about Terry Fox or runs for Terry Fox or mountains or schools or parks or streets named after Terry Fox. So I wouldn't know who he was if it wasn't for a single faded picture in a passport that will get a stamp placed upon it when I travel. Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I would never know about him. Jesus Christ. The rage farming. And look, it worked because I'm enraged. Except this is blowing back on them in a way they didn't anticipate. Because most Canadians are going, what? I didn't even know that was in there.
But Mr. Grizzly.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. The neuralizer.
Trudeau. That's what he did.
Yep. Yeah, he neuralized us. He's going to erase our memories and then give us a new one.
That's what he just came around like the minute he just men in blacked us. As soon as you changed the passport, psst, there. Terry who?
Yeah.
The marathon of what?
I don't know what they're talking about.
He was every other book that mentions him like this. They just got all vaporized.
Completely erased. Well, again, like I said, Vimy
erased our history. Well, just erased it.
Vimy, you know, the memorial in France on
gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah,
it's gone. It's not there anymore.
And if you look at the back of the $20 bill, there's nothing on it now because that was the Vimy memorial, but I guess it's been erased from history, according to Andrew Scheer and Pierre Poilievre. Or Poilievre, whatever he calls himself this week. I guess it's Poilievre in this part of the country, and when he's out west, it's Poilievre. He couldn't flip-flop more, could he? He flip-flops so much, he flip-flops on his bloody name.
Yeah, he might be giving up on Poilievre because he's already lost contact with the CBC.
And it's never coming back. Yeah, that backfired on him, didn't it? Oh, darn.
Well, come on, man. these people, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing that Mulcair did.
Yep.
Right? You try too hard with one, and you say what's the one thing in one region, you try to say thing in the other region. You hope that people won't talk to each other in a world where everybody has a cell phone.
The internet is real. So I'm just looking
And
at
then
the
you have
population
this.
right now. Quebec
Hold on,
is
hold on, hold on,
8.8
hold on, hold on.
million.
No, not yet, not yet, not yet. Then we have this.
Oh, I was just talking about the pop. That's all.
I know, not yet. We have this. Sarah Fisher, the director of communications, going, again, it's just a passport. It's just a symbol. They're only words, only beliefs held by the few, only traditions that no longer matter. It's just history. Quote, the first step in liquidating a people is to erase its memory, destroy its books, its culture, its history, then have somebody write new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history. Before long, that nation will begin to forget what it is and what it was. The struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. Milan Kundera. All right. So, Mr. Grizzly, the question then becomes, for me, is who is Milan
Kundera?
Kundera? Yeah, who is she quoting? Milan Kundera is a Czech writer who went into exile in France in 1975, becoming a naturalized French citizen in 81. Kundera's Czechoslovak citizenship was revoked in 1709 and reconferred in 2019. He says himself as a French writer, insists his work should be studied as French literature and classified as such under bookstores. He is, from what I have heard, I will check again. Yes. Kundera's best known work is The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Yes.
Prior to the Velvet Revolution of 1989, the communist regime in Czechoslovakia banned his books. He led a low-profile life, thought to be a contender for the Nobel Prize. Still in his when he was in his teens, he joined the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia.
Wait a minute. Did you say he was a communist? How do the conservatives feel about that?
In 1950s, his studies were interrupted when he and writer Jan Trefouka were expelled from the Communist Party for anti-party activities. Along with other reformist communist writers, such as Pavel Kohut, he was peripherally involved in the 1968 Prague Spring. He's quoting a communist.
Yeah, I think that's quite.
Conservatives are quoting communists.
Theo Fleury's burning. He's burning right now. He's on fire.
Trudeau, the alleged tyrant, to whom's charms we've all succumbed, according to Danielle Smith, has erased our history, is participating in old stock Canadian erasure.
Yes, yeah.
Because, even though our history, Vimy and all that kind of stuff is history of Canada, there are many Canadians who have arrived here many years since. Somebody made the point, all these things are our common history if you're 100 years old or something. Yeah. It's our common history. It's made Canada, but not a lot of us have lived it or experienced it. So we basically have a bunch of conservative people who chose a set of images, and then I guess they thought that these images should be the ones that define us for the rest of our lives. Yes. But here's the thing. When you're out there and you are saying you erase the past to control the future, what is wrong with you? You know where rhetoric like this leads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know where it leads. What is wrong with you people?
It's intentional. That's what's wrong. It's intentional. Either that or they all grew up in houses with lead pipes and lead paint. But it's intentional. They're trying to harm people. And they don't care. As long as they get their way. They don't care. No, doesn't matter to them one whit. As long as they win. As long as they win the nanosecond. As long as they get their way. As long as they get their regurgitated soundbite in the 24-hour news cycle. They don't care.
You know where this leads, Mr. Grizzly.
Yep.
You know where this leads. Tiki torch rallies.
Yep. Yeah. What comes next.
Is wrong with you? What are you doing?
They don't care.
We do not consent.
It's this Americanized politics that's been imported across the 49th parallel that I cannot stand. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And I've yet to meet a single Canadian that actually likes. Now, I know there's some that do. They're the fringe, extreme fringe minority. And I say I've yet to meet a single Canadian because those folks don't really want to have a conversation with me. They just want to yell shit in my face. They will never sit across the table from me and have a conversation. So, I'd be willing to sit across the table, but I'd probably lose my shit in 5 minutes, which is, understandable because, I'd have my blue jacket on for that particular day. But they don't want to hear anything that runs counter to their narrative, period. They will not listen to reason. They ignore facts. They ignore science. Many of them think the world is flat. The pandemic was a hoax. They believe that the Liberal government started the wildfire. Do you see where this is going?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is all bad.
This is all bad. This is all very bad. And these people who have chosen these images that should represent us for all eternity. Well, there's this guy on Twitter, Alex Usher, HESA, at Alex Usher, HESA. So I pulled out my passport to check out what symbols we currently chose to elevate. The male-female ratio of the symbols are quite something. Below some numbers, some approximate because some of my pages are obscured with stamps and visas. Page 5, Indigenous symbols. Male, 0, female, 0. Page 6 and 7, Samuel de Champlain, male, 1, female, 0. Pages 8 and 9, Fathers of Confederation, male, 24, female, 0. Pages 10 and 11, The Last Spike, male, 10, female, 0. Pages 11 to 25, mostly buildings and geography, male, 1, female, 0. Pages 26 and 27, NWMP, RCMP, male 8, female 0. Pages 28 and 29, Grey Cup, Stanley Cup. Some kids are indistinct, but to me it looks like male 7, female 0. Page 30, The Famous 5, male 0, female 5. Terry Fox, male 1, female 0. World War II bar and World War II war scenes, males 12 to 14, female 0. Pages 34 and 35, Newfoundland and Blue Nose, male, female, 0. In total, images in passport currently run 65 to 5, male, female, 66 to 6 if you include the Vimy female mourner statue. Images of Indigenous people, 0. Even the one picture on the Canadian North is a white guy. Feathers and Inukshuk are less than actual people. Other people of color, 0. Basically, if your argument for the current passport is that the symbols are important, ask yourself why it is important to foreground symbols which are so overwhelmingly white and male. And if your response to that question is, well, it's so hard to come up with balance, it's also fraught, well, you're well on your way to understanding why the government chose not to use historical symbols this time out. None of the above should be taken as defense of the actual chosen design, which is pretty vapid if you ask me, but the erasure/symbols crowds need to get a grip.
Now look at how those. See the pictures are monochromatic and faded. They're very difficult to make out, especially when, you get a couple of stamps in your passport. Like, oh, I don't know, that. Can you make out the pictures now? No, I didn't think so.
Well, that's what the guy was saying. Right?
Like, hello. Like, come on. Realistically, people, let's get real here. Come on. Once you start getting stamps, and you notice that some of these stamps have, like, for example, writing on them as well, handwritten dates and times. Like, come on, people, you're being ridiculous.
Yeah. So, this person doesn't even like the new design. And still.
Yeah, thinks they're being ridiculous.
It's like,
yeah.
Come on, man. So, yes. So you have a bunch of mainly white men, allegedly Christian, allegedly heterosexual, having what's
good.
written here. You got to pay attention. Got to pay attention. I sometimes slide them in there. I got a great deadpan. Where the kids are saying mantram. Yeah, basically having a collective mantram.
Yeah.
Because the symbols that they picked are not the ones that are going to be there forever.
Yeah, they're going to disappear overnight.
Ever. I'm just... Because, once they pick them, those are the ones that define us for all eternity.
Yeah.
Can't possibly be anything else.
No, never. No, that's it. That's all there is.
I'm hearing
That's my computer, my laptop. That's me.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I don't... So clearly the goal here, right? The goal previously was to paint the prime ministers completely and totally a himbo.
Mm.
Basically, he's interested in celebrities and cute socks and nice hair. And if he remembers to wear his pants to a debate, well, then he's doing well. And now, then was everything's Trudeau's fault because he's both genius mastermind that magically controls the price of oil with his mind, yet can't work a toaster. Now it is Trudeau the tyrant.
It's
literally, they're quoting communists. They're talking about him in 1984 war, love is war, and whatever terms,
Well, he's obviously the greatest politician ever because he's able to control absolutely everything on the planet at the same time while still being a blithering idiot and a dictator. What?
But this is the narrative now.
Yeah.
The narrative now is full-blown dictator, tyrant. He is going to crush you. You must rise up against him.
And that is the narrative that they're spelling out, and that is frightening.
I'm half expecting those commercials to be like, the hard metal. You got to get him out now. He's coming for your guns. He's coming for your burgers. He's coming for your trucks. I mean, today meet at the Coliseum.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
I mean, they keep on dancing. They keep on wanting to throw parties in Canadian Tire parking lots.
Yeah.
Canadian Tire, not really being that forceful on the get off my concrete.
Yeah, and that's not a good look for them. They really should have pushed it a little bit more because they have the ability to. It's called trespassing.
I mean,
it's a public parking lot. No, it's owned by Canadian Tire. They have the right to kick you off.
Yeah.
So they need to be a little bit more forceful in their public relations because if they're not, this could blow back bad. You watch the share prices drop. You watch people just start avoiding the store altogether. There are alternative choices.
Yeah, but I can understand them sitting there going, ooh, is there a market share we would lose by not? Probably there is a market share you would lose by not supporting that. But you know what?
It's a tiny one.
Well, when it comes to what Canadian Tire sells, maybe not that tiny. But are you playing the long game? Are you playing the long game, Canadian Tire?
Are they going for the nanosecond? That's kind of like the whole
or just
conservative mantra.
Maybe not so much for the nanosecond, but sort of like how little can I push over there without causing anger over there, because I'd rather keep them both if I can. Sometimes you can't have it all.
No, you can't.
Sometimes you just need to choose. Sometimes you listen. If people keep on showing up on your territory and saying we're going to do this here, and it brings a bad name to your business, businesses are allowed to say, yeah, we understand you want to give us money, but your business is business we don't need.
Indeed.
Sometimes just because people wear your team jersey doesn't mean you have to accept them on the team.
No, you have the choice to say, yeah, we don't know her.
There are certain people you should not want on your team.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Everyone's welcome to sign up, but I have standards. Just saying. So
yeah, here's a good from Elaine. Before the event happened, Canadian Tire spoke out against it, but it still happened.
Yeah.
Now there were maybe 20 people there.
Yeah, and they maybe didn't see the need to make a point, but what's going to happen is that the pictures are going to go on social media. They're going to get the calls. One call, one letter represents X number of people. People seem to be more willing to get mad at businesses on public forums than you never know.
You never know.
You never know, but not the best look. Not the best look in the long term if you're playing the long game. But I can understand how a corporation could first go, well, let's see if we can make them both happy. So certain things you can't. Certain things you can't.
Hey, look.
And you can tell that that's a boardroom decision.
Hey, look, here's a passport that expired in 2017. Look at this. What's on the pages of that passport? Issued in 2012, expired in 2017. Every page is just the same thing over and over and over again. And look, and here you can't even see the maple leaf stamps, maple leaf in the background, the red one, because of the stamps that cover it.
Yeah.
Rage farming idiots. Making a mountain out of a bloody molehill.
Oh, man. Again, wearing out my weave.
I am curious, though, and I legitimately have this question. How many people that are rage farming and getting enraged about the passport images that are not clearly visible unless you look really closely, number one, and number two, once you travel a lot, they disappear altogether. How many of those people have a passport? There are a group of those folks who probably regularly go to Cuba, a communist country. Just saying. Just saying. I mean, really. I mean, really, right? Because they go to Cuba because it's cheaper than Mexico, right? I mean,
Oh, man. Oh, man. oh. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Well played.
Thank you.
Classist much.
Yes, Jim. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I need to. Okay, so you may have noticed I got a lot of stamps on my passport from around the world. I have traveled extensively. I need you to understand something. When I travel, I'm going to a place or a country where I have friends, and that's where I stay when I travel. I stay with a friend or a family member or a relative or whatever the case may be, because I can't afford to travel to another part of the world and stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. So when I went to New Delhi, India, I stayed with a friend for the time I was there. When I go to Switzerland, I stay with a friend. When I go to the UK, I stay with friends because I don't have the money to stay in a hotel. I have the money. It takes me a long time to save up the money to pay for the flight. I sacrifice things. I go to the pub less. I don't dine out. I cut back on things to save the money, and I'll use points when and where I can, and I shop for sales. So I book my vacation around the flight costs, basically, because you can fly cheaper on Sundays and Wednesdays than you can on Saturdays or Fridays. So I will book my flights based on the cheapest price I can find. That's how I'm able to travel like I can. So I need that to be understood, because people think, well, look at that elitist prick there. You can travel the world at a whim. The trip I took to Saratoga Springs, New York, that was a driving trip in my car with my buddy. And we split the costs. That was my first trip anywhere since October of 2019. 4 years. Well, not quite 4, 3.5 years since I've gone anywhere. So, I'm not this elitist that a lot of people seem to think. And I slum it because that's all I can afford. I stay in motels.
Yeah, well, you made choices.
You make choices.
Yeah. All right. You're entitled to, right? I mean, you make the choices. If you like to travel, you sacrifice other things. There's things you don't get. You travel. I pay money to play sports.
Well, and here's another thing.
I have a tennis membership. I have a curling membership. Those are my activities, right? So I don't travel. I haven't traveled as much. I put my money into other things, right? It's just
I never had a desire to own a home.
You never have to justify that.
I never had a desire to own a home. It was never my thing. And something I could have purchased a home a long time ago. But if I did that, I would not have been able to travel. I would rather travel the world than own a house. That's me. And I can't have both because I don't earn the money to do it. I made a choice. I don't regret it at all. At all. I would give up a lot to travel again as much as I once could. I will make the sacrifices necessary. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
some people travel, some people drink, some people smoke.
Yeah, and as like Tavi G said, why justify, right? I mean, it's just, right? Why? Like, it's your money. If you make choices with it, and traveling makes you happy, travel.
Well, but people tend to chastise you for it and say, well, look at your elitist prick. You're able to travel the world. No, I'm able to travel the world because I made sacrifice to do it, and I'm staying with friends.
I traveled a lot when I was younger, but I bussed a lot of stuff. Oh, wow, you went to Washington. You went to, but I sat my butt 14 hours on a bus.
Yeah.
You went to Vancouver. Yeah, I sat my butt 3 days on a bus. There and then 3 days back. I didn't fly. So, but that's what was important. I made the time. So, I mean, those things you don't, people are going to make a judgment. It's like, oh, you've traveled much, you must be elitist. It's like, well, listen, if that's all the time it's going to take you to make that judgment about you than me, then you've already told me all I need to know about you, right? So, note, life's too short. Life's too short. Okay.
Speaking of short lives and how it seems Danielle Smith wants to shorten people's lives, got a little little thing from the Twitter. When it comes to Danielle Smith, there's always a video, right? There's always a video. Every single time.
Day.
This is 2 minutes and 15 seconds of Danielle Smith doing what Danielle Smith does.
The first thing is that you have to have good political leadership. I mean, the only reason why we saw those actions is because the politicians gave carte blanche to our health, our chief medical officer of health and AHS to be able to enforce that. So the first step is making sure that we're electing people who would never give that kind of latitude to the police. And I think we just demonstrated with the example that you gave. Why? Because you had frontline officers using their own judgment call about how to enforce, when to enforce, and how aggressively to enforce. And they made some big mistakes. So the boys playing ice hockey should have never been targeted.
Ice hockey? Is she Canadian?
Pastors should have never been arrested. In fact, I remember being on the air.
Pastors?
Because it was my last couple of days on the air when Pastor Coates got arrested. And there were many people sending me criminal code sections, you are not allowed under the criminal code to disrupt a service. That's
Yeah.
a criminal code violation.
Yeah.
So I have to wonder whether or not some of those officers are the ones who broke the law in doing so. And the idea now, especially as we're seeing this revolving door of really bad dudes who are getting let out and committing heinous crimes, and they decided to keep pastors in jail and in solitary
Pastors again.
confinement for as long as 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah,
That to me,
and the freedom guys. Pat King was the
Pat
100
King.
days.
Well,
She's defending Pat King now.
and Tamara Leach, like
Tamara,
this
Oh.
is just punitive.
wrong.
It is,
Yeah.
and you know, I've been taking some counsel from Lieutenant Colonel David Redmond, because one of the things that he said was so important. He said that medical doctors should never be in charge of an emergency
I'm sorry, what?
again, and I completely agree with him. And one of the things about people who have been involved in emergency response is often many of them come from the military. And so the military trains their officers in how to make decisions that respect the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, because often they're going to be away in foreign lands, and they want to make sure that they're behaving in a way that is ethical and would stand up to scrutiny even at home. And so the fact that our medical doctors didn't have that same level of balance, I think that demonstrates they can't ever be put in charge again.
Hippocratic oath?
There's always a video clip.
Okay. It makes me wonder whether the police were the ones breaking the laws.
Mm.
And she wants a provincial police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
She wants a provincial police force so she can control them, kind of like how the OPP does whatever Doug Ford wants, right? And I have family members that are OPP, and they're not too happy about the way Doug Ford tries to, wield them like it's part of his office.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
I'm guessing that's a video from some time ago. Clearly,
it was just before she became leader, so not that long ago.
No.
And look at what it's titled: "To live in a land where families can prosper in peace and fundamental freedoms are fully protected."
I don't understand that. When she was talking about, oh, well, it's a tournament for ice hockey.
Yeah.
Players. Like the pastors. Okay,
wait. That's a tell. That's a tell.
Fight,
she's American.
Yeah.
She's an American. Canadians don't say ice hockey.
Yeah. And they're not obsessed with pastors.
If you're playing hockey that's not on the ice, it's ball hockey or street hockey or road hockey or field hockey. Otherwise, it's just hockey. When you say ice hockey, that's a tell. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. It's a tell. Come on.
I cannot. So when there's a global pandemic, particularly a respiratory one, okay, do your things, but make an exception for kids who play hockey, and make an exception for pastors and everybody who wants to show up where a pastor may be in a collective. So that's just when the objective is supposed to be cut down all vectors of transmission possible. Let's create some exceptions for more vectors of transmission.
Yeah. I can't make this crap up.
Because hockey, because Sky Daddy, Mommy, he, she, it, they, whatever.
We're not trying to belittle anybody's religion. It's just
no,
absurd.
but just
it's absurd.
Seriously,
it just continues. It seems to never end. And like I said, there's always a video clip. Every day there's something new.
I just don't understand why the fact it is that one person or a group of people say, I'm religious. so are many other people.
Mhm.
Plenty of other people who are religious did not feel the need to congregate. Were able to worship at home. They zoomed into their services. They volunteered and helped their neighbors. They lived the word. So, what makes you special that you can't do what they did? What makes the deity that you worship,
Mhm.
or the religion within you worship, so special that you can't do what everybody else can? And why do you think
It's her special pointing out of pastors 3 times, I think, in that 2-minute clip? That's telling. It's telling.
Well, I mean, if your number one sponsor is PCBB, then
PVCC, yeah.
you're always running proactive pre-interference.
I had a conversation with my mom yesterday on Mother's Day. I went over to see her for dinner, and I was telling her about the PBCC, and she goes, Paul, and my mother is super Catholic. She says, Paul, if they have to tell you right from the get-go that they're Christian, they're probably the furthest thing from Christian there is. I'm like, yeah, I've been saying that for a long time.
Because if you are, it's obvious. You don't have to say it.
And 99 out of 100 times when somebody pronounces their Christianity to you, their brand of Christianity means they want to segregate those who are not like them. They want to denigrate others. They want to punch down on those who cannot punch up. They want to, put an end to same-sex marriage. They want to control contraception. You got to understand that contraception was illegal in Canada in the 1950s. I only learned about that recently. I didn't know that. I was like, what? There was a guy who was arrested for selling black market condoms because contraception was illegal in Canada. That was changed. And Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, struck down the criminal charge of homosexuality because he believed that the state had no place in the bedrooms of the nation. And those are his exact words.
Mm-hmm.
So we've come a long way in a very short time, and now we have people who want to take us back. So when they say take back Canada, okay, first off, take it back from whom? Oh, you just want to take it back to the 1940s when women knew their place. When the uppity colored people couldn't get too uppity. When First Nations people, Indigenous people were not allowed off the res. When the nation was largely ruled by a group of white, wasps, basically. That's what they want. And Leslyn Lewis is on their side, but I guarantee you the moment they get control and power, they'll ostracize her too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe Manchin just learned that in the US, eh?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that one?
I'm not fully up to date on it.
Okay.
Please.
There mentions a senator, right? And there's a Senate race, but he's a senator in West Virginia.
What Jim just wrote.
Rich wasps, not wasps, it's rich wasps. Well,
yes, you're correct.
Speaking of, so he's West Virginia, and he's been helping the Republicans all this time. Well, it seems that the Republicans have found themselves a charismatic candidate in West Virginia for the Senate. That Manchin may not win this time around. And now Manchin's like really upset because Mitch McConnell has thrown his support behind the Republican. Imagine the guy who stole 2 Supreme Court seats would back the Republican candidate in a Senate race against you. If you keep on telling you, all it means is that we're going to save you for last.
Yeah.
They'll
use you till they can't use you anymore and then toss you aside.
He's upset. Where's the loyalty? Where's the... And the face-eating leopard party wins again.
Yes, I didn't think they'd eat my face.
But I'm white and I'm rich.
Here's an interesting thing that's just come across my timeline, and this is from May 11th.
Oh, man.
Right. I got to read this. I'm not going to put it on the screen. I'll just read it. It's at Stephen Best on Twitter. And Stephen Best, who is Stephen Best? He is an environmental animal protection activist since the early 70s, motion picture maker, writer, co-founder, Animal Protection Party of Canada. Okay, never heard of him before. Here's what he has to say. I'll just read this quickly and then we'll move on. Amidst all the blaring and umbrage about Chinese interference in Canada's elections, not a single news organization, not CBC, CTV, Globe and Mail, Global News, no journalist, nor a single MP, not even Michael Chong, nor CSIS Canada, the initial sources of all the rumors, and not Elections Canada has told us what the Chinese actually did, if anything, to influence elections.
Right.
All is vague. All are generalizations. No particulars, not a single one. Why? And get this, the journalists and news organizations that are so incurious and seemingly lazy, none of them seem to be even trying to find out what the Chinese may have done or not done. And yet uninformed opinions and outrage from people informed only by ignorance are filling broadcast minutes, column inches, and the question period gong show.
Who said this?
Stephen Best. At Stephen Best D. on Twitter.
Okay.
I've never heard of him before, but he's nailed it.
Well, that's exactly it. That
nailed it. There, I just sent it to you via DM.
Nailed it. And conversely, as we keep on saying, nobody is asking about the internal workings within the Conservative Party. What did the two Conservative members on the NSICOP committee hear? How was that information relayed back to the party? What was relayed? What was not? What did the party do with that information? Were they even able to relay any information back to Pierre Poilievre because he doesn't have a security clearance? Or did it have to go somewhere else? And just...
mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing the astounding lack of curiosity from journalists when you would really, really, really think that curiosity was a prerequisite for the job. Where is it? Man, just... it's sitting right there. The questions are sitting right there, and they won't ask them. All right. Two big things happening in the world. There were elections in Turkey and in Thailand over the weekend. And in Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan was having some issues with his popularity because over the course of his most recent mandates, he had ordered the central bank to lower interest rates to boost growth and exports, which worked for a time until it didn't, and it caused inflation to soar, and then there were nowhere left to cut the interest rates because he had already used all his juice. The 40 to 45% reported inflation rate is estimated by analysts there to be really over 100, just not calculated as 40 to 45, which has fueled a severe cost of living crisis. That, coupled with the aftermath of the February earthquake, which caused more than $4 billion in damage, which is about 4% of the nation's GDP. Well, those kind of became big issues, particularly the earthquake as a result of the nation's lax building code enforcement and slow response to the disaster. About 64 to 65 million voters were eligible to cast a vote. The early counts, things went almost like the U.S. election. Early counts showed a good lead for Erdogan, but as results started coming in from the big cities, Istanbul and Ankara, well, just before midnight, projections showed a drop below 50%. And because Turkey is a country in which you need, the winner needs, in the first round, needs to get at least 50% to be declared the winner, unless it goes to a runoff, this one will go to a runoff. Erdogan, it seems, with most of 99.38% of the ballot boxes opened, and there were over 200,000 polling stations in this election. Erdogan of the AKP party secured 49.42%. So just missed it by that much. Kılıçdaroğlu from CHP, which is his main opponent and the guy who was a former public servant, he got 44.95, and there were two other candidates, Ogan and Ince, one from ATA Alliance and one from the Homeland Party. They got 5.2% and 0.43% respectively, which was enough to prevent one of the candidates from reaching 50. Any of the candidates from reaching 50, I should say. So there will be a runoff in about 2 weeks. I'm not really sure how it's going to go, because you could assume that maybe people who do want change, and it's mostly younger Turks, will be encouraged by the fact that Erdogan did not get the 50% on the first ballot and may come out more in a second round, sort of like what happened in Georgia when they had to have the runoff between Warnock and that football player there that was a hot mess. Can't even remember his name. Herschel Walker. There we go. And it confirmed Warnock in the seat for 6 years, I believe. But in this particular case, the third place candidate, Oğan, is an ultranationalist and an ally of Erdogan, but who was running against him. So might be the kingmaker, and maybe there would be a way for Kılıçdaroğlu to bring him in to his coalition in some way. Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks in Turkey to see what happens there. In Thailand, there was a really, really big upset. In Thailand, there was a military overthrow of the government about 8 years ago. The military junta, along with the monarchy there and the wealthy, have been basically ruling Thailand for the last 8 years. They've had an election, and it seems that the youth of the country really came out, as well as everyone else, and just really rejected the military regime. According to Al Jazeera, with nearly all votes counted on Monday, the Progressive Move Forward Party and the populist Pautai Party were projected to win about 286 seats in the 500-member House of Representatives, but uncertainty remains about whether they'll be able to form the next government due to skewed parliamentary rules. What happened is, of course, when the military took over, they changed the rules, of course, and basically appointed the entire Senate. So now the 250 members of the Senate have to vote on who will be the prime minister. Yeah. So not quite sure how that's going to pan out in the end. But the biggest winner of the vote was MFP, the Move Forward Party, which is a progressive youth-led party that contested the general elections for the first time on a bold platform of reforming the monarchy and reducing the power of the military by rewriting the country's constitution and ending conscription, so ending mandatory military service. I have a feeling the military junta might not be down with that. Possibly. So with 99% of votes counted, the Move Forward Party looks set to take the biggest share of the lower house with a total of 140 seats. Preliminary results published on the Election Commission website showed, and the figure includes 112 from the 400 seats that are directly elected and 35 from 100 seats allocated to parties on a proportional basis. The leader of that party contacted the leader of the second place party, the Pautai Party, and invited her to join the coalition. The leader of that party is the daughter of the prime minister who was exiled in the military coup 8 years ago. Mr. Grizzly, so if the Senate does actually confirm him, which is a question at the moment, this young man over here, if you put it up, Pita Limjaroenrat, will be the new prime minister of Thailand.
Okay.
There
He
we
looks
go.
very young.
He definitely looks like it's a youth-led movement, so I would not be surprised. Yeah, and just over here, if you would, Mr. Grizzly, I mentioned it, but we have the visual here from the presidential election in Turkey. These are where the standing stood.
Wow, that's pretty
Standing
tight.
stood. These are where things stood at the end of the first round, none of them having reached to 50%. The bottom two candidates will be removed from the ballot, and there will be a runoff, I believe, on May 28th is the date. So those are big events happening in the world. Here in Canada, the Prime Minister announced 4 by-elections to be held on June 19th. And those by-elections will take place to fill in the seats vacated by Liberal Cabinet Minister Marc Garneau in Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Westmount in Quebec, Conservative MP Dave McKenzie in the electoral district of Oxford in Ontario, and former Conservative interim leader Candice Bergen in the riding of Portage-Lisgar in Manitoba. There will also be a race held to fill the Manitoba seat in Winnipeg South Centre, vacated by the passing of former Liberal Cabinet Minister Jim Carr. There's another seat, Calgary Heritage, that remains vacant, with a by-election expected to be called after the conclusion of the Alberta provincial election. Not all parties will have announced who will be contesting the by-elections, but the big news is that in Portage-Lisgar, as we talked about in the previous show, Maxime Bernier has decided he's going to run there. Now, people are thinking, okay, great, maybe a fight, a chance for a vote split. Maybe a Liberal or an NDP could slip up the middle. Mr. Grizzly, I hate to dash hopes. However, that's probably not going to happen because in the 2021 federal election, Candy Sheets Bergen got 52.52% of the vote, and the People's Party's candidate Solomon Weeb got 21.58% of the vote. So in that electoral district, over 74% of the vote went to right and righter.
Who the hell is Jerome Dondo?
I do not know.
Christian Heritage? I've never heard of that party. That's obviously a provincial thing, right?
No, it's a federal party.
No, it's a federal party, but I think they have because I've never heard of them in this part of the country. Is what I'm getting at. I think they're largely regional. Oh, you have?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they were the Christian Heritage Party was the very, very right-wing party before Conservative went really right-wing, and then People's Party started to compete with them, but it was never really popular.
So you've got, looks like the right split in 3 different directions. Fine by me.
And that one, yes, but 74%, if you add the Christian Heritage, about 77% of the vote in that riding is hard.
Extreme right wing. Yeah.
So, nobody's going to slide up the middle. But I feel terrible for saying this, but I'm pulling for Max.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I get it. Yeah,
because they're all out there like this. Max is an opportunist who will say anything and do anything, and like,
yeah.
Andrew Scheer being one of these people. And it's a girl again. May I present you to a mirror?
Pot, kettle, introduce yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. Have a coffee. We'll talk.
Max Bernier will say anything? Have you seen your current leader?
Yeah, he just accused the Liberal Party of Canada of starting wildfires in Alberta in the House of Commons.
Have you seen your leader 2 leaders ago? Andrew Scheer, the original George Santos, will say anything. I was an insurance salesman.
Oh, it turns out you weren't.
A dual citizen at all.
Nobody asked me about it.
Shame on Stéphane Dion and Michael Jean for being dual citizens. Oh, what, me? Oh, all the time I was speaker, I was a dual citizen? Nobody told me.
That's like the Republicans who are always railing against the pedophile, rapist, drug dealing. Well, it turns out that was who you were all along.
Yeah. So, probably not going to happen. But yeah, I'm, if Bernier's the one, Bernier said when he left the Conservative Party that it was morally and intellectually bankrupt. We've been saying there's nothing much conservative about the Conservative Party.
Exactly.
You might not like Bernier, but when Bernier's talking about the old Conservative Party, he's actually telling the truth.
He is telling the truth. I don't like the man at all, but he is telling the truth.
So yeah.
Wait, let me rephrase that. I got to rephrase that.
About that.
I said I don't like the man. I don't know the man. I don't care for his politics.
Yes.
He might be a nice guy to sit and have a beer with. I don't know if I could calmly discuss politics with him. I don't know that I could, but I don't know that I couldn't. Yeah. I've not been presented with the opportunity. I would tell you what, Max, if you watch this show and you're in Ottawa, why don't you meet me at the pump for a beer and we'll have a discussion?
I would be able to.
We won't even film it. We won't even film it. We'll just have a discussion.
I would be able to discuss politics with Max Bernier. I would be able, not a problem like this. We probably wouldn't agree on much.
No, I think I probably could, because he says a lot of silly things a lot of the time, and he says a lot of things to rile up the base, however small his base is. But I think, and he's a libertarian to begin with, not a conservative. But I think that he's not Pierre.
No, he's not Pierre.
He's not Pierre.
No. Misguided on a few things, but not Pierre.
Not Pierre.
I don't sense as much intentional maliciousness,
and I don't sense also that he needs to win the nanosecond every time. I don't get that. Yeah, if you want to set that up, James, why don't we do it?
Yeah, sure. We'd be up for it.
We could have him on, and I think it would be best if we recorded it instead of doing it live.
I would not go live.
I think it would be best not to go live.
Yeah, as James says, it's a smart strategic decision. Absolutely, it's one of the two riding electoral districts in Canada in which the PPC got the highest vote count. And if there are people there that are not feeling that Pierre might be the real deal, or might be trying to play two sides, they might want to go for the real deal, especially since he is a party leader. So I know what I know for a fact is that if Max Bernier did win the by-election there over the Conservatives, that would send the Conservatives into a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
I wouldn't yell at him, James. That's why we'd record it so I could heavily edit myself.
The Queen is never against stirring the pot.
I'll take a Benadryl 20 minutes before we start the show. I'd be very mellow. Clear-headed and mellow.
No. We wouldn't need to be there wouldn't need to be a moderator.
No.
Like I said, we wouldn't do yelling. I think Max Bernier doesn't present as aggressive. So, there might be a little like, no, wait, stuff like that. But I doubt very much there would be any screaming.
Well,
and given that we do have a long format, it's like, okay, now you've said your piece. No, we've given you your 5 minutes. Let's this is why we don't agree with you, and this is why we don't see that this is logical, and we can.
He's a career politician, so he knows how to play the game, right?
Yeah.
So he's not going to start yelling at me. He knows that would be political suicide.
I also don't think he has I think he's smart enough to know he doesn't have the option. Poilievre can throw a temper tantrum because he's the leader of the official opposition. Yes. They have to cover him. Bernier, they don't.
That's
so
true.
If he starts acting up and behaving that way, it's like, you know what? There's other people to cover. Thank you. Right. So he also, he can read a room a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it that way. So we have no problem with that. Yeah. If you won't do more than 30 minutes, if you'll do more, we'll do more. But yeah, I can do pretty good Bernie impersonation if you guys want to do a test run this morning. Well, yeah, 30 minutes is great with the right questions. The thing is that we tend to let people respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you only got 30 minutes and he's talking for 26 of them, it doesn't leave for a lot of time for challenge. So with a 30-minute format, we might have to be a little more
strict.
Not strict, a little more proactive,
Mm.
rather than waiting for the, okay, I'm done. Your turn. A little bit without being rude, of course. Concise. Yes, Jim. There we go.
Manners are important.
Absolutely. So yeah, those are the things that I believe I had today. I don't think I have anything else.
I have a story here. I have a story here written by Heather Malik in the Toronto Star from September 9th, 2013. The new Canadian passport is pure Harperlandia. The new Canadian passport is a nightmarish tribute to a stultifying past. Canadians are sporty and predominantly male, according to the images in the new 10-year passport. I'll put a link to it in the chat. Anybody wants to read this story? I think it's rather interesting. And there it is. There's the link. Anybody wants to check that out? The passport contains 22 visual watermarks portraying the essence, the uniqueness of Hyperlandia. There are, by my count, 98 images of males, 6 of females. There are various landscapes from the north, the prairies, Newfoundland, plus Niagara Falls. There are football players and hockey players, a warship, 3 war memorials, the RCMP, and a soldier. But there is no image of Toronto or Vancouver, no Aboriginal Canadian. Apparently only one Canadian virgin on our lifetime, Terry Fox, has ever distinguished himself. Interesting. Well, and there is a story that I think did I put it in the chat earlier? I can't remember if I did or not. It was from the Huffington Post from a few years back, written around the same time. I have it right here. I'll just copy this link and put it in the chat. And this is what's interesting that you need to note in this particular column, where it says, bureaucrats at first recommended the government adopt images of fauna and flora to grace the inside pages of the new travel document, similar to the UK's passport. But the Conservatives chose instead to focus on history and follow the example of the United States passport with its images of the Declaration of Independence and Mount Rushmore.
Oh, well.
Well, and the bureaucrats went with a non-political statement.
American.
Yeah, they Americanized the Canadian passport. And James, why can't a passport just be booked to get you into countries? Why does it have to be a political statement? I agree. And that was what the bureaucrats recommended back in October of 2012. So what this new passport is going back to what it once was. And by the recommendations of the bureaucracy that runs the departments, or I shouldn't say runs, but operates those departments.
Wow.
Interesting. Eh?
Wow.
Oh, and do they have the short? I think why is none of the Conservatives brought this up in the House of Commons? Why do they continue to say we're erasing history?
Because history only begins at the moment they determined it does.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right. If we have time, I have like little things, but yeah, Andrew Coyne almost died when he saw the passport. Yeah, Jen Gerson was in a foot race with them to the morgue.
Yeah. It's like
and you know what the Globe and Mail did? They platformed her.
Yeah, they did.
They gave her a kid.
Yeah.
She's having a mental breakdown in public, and they Kanye Wested her. They gave her a platform. Oh, by the way, that's a gentle correction on myself. I needed to put out. I was listening to a past episode when I was talking about Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman in the States, and I mentioned that some people had come to her door to help her. Like this, and I said P. Diddy. It wasn't P. Diddy. It was Kanye West's people.
So this was my first passport. Notice how small the crest is. This was my second passport. Crest is a little bit larger, and there's no line between the words passport and passport. This is my third one. same as the first one. And this is my most recent one, the 10-year one, where the crest is a lot larger and it's got the little signia of the that it's electronic. But if I look at all my old ones, they all had the same interior design. Look at that. Look at that. That was it. That's all it was, just a maple leaf. And again, if I go to pages where there's stamps, you can't make out a bloody thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can look. Well, here's one in Bermuda from 2007, stamped right over the maple leaf. Can you even see the maple leaf underneath that red stamp right here? No, right there. I can't. I mean, come on, people. You're losing your shit.
All right. Do we have a little more time left?
Yeah, I'm just going to show you a picture of me when I had blonde hair.
Oh my.
There we go. Look at how young I was. My goodness gracious. When was that? That was 2001. So that's 22 years ago.
Yeah, that's a handsome fella.
Not a bad looking fella.
Not a bad looking fella at all. All right, sir. Do we have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, we got lots of time.
Oh, okay. Because I've got tidbits then. Remember when we said that the judge in the Donald Trump case in New York had put a special order with regard to disclosure and what he could do with it, discovery evidence, and that there was some evidence that he would not be able to copy, touch, talk about, and that there's even some he would not be able to see without the presence of his lawyer, and some that his lawyers could not even tell him about.
Mm-hmm.
In order to protect the jury pool. Well, it seems that in addition to that, the judge felt the need to set up a Zoom call with 45 on May 23rd to explain to him in terms he hopefully can understand and give him every single opportunity to ask every single question he could possibly have so that there's no way he could possibly not be clear about what the judge's order is. To explain to him, to judge-splain to him what he can and cannot do with the information he obtains from the prosecution via discovery. Now, kitties and cubbies and Mr. Grizzly, between you and us, just you and us, how likely do you think it is that Motormouth can keep his mouth shut between now and February or March of 2024 when the trial starts? This is Donald Trump's version of hell. He's got something to say and he's not allowed to say it. But he can't help himself. So we're going to see if he's going to be as disciplined as he is, as he's been, not saying one bad word about Putin for X number of years, even though his mouth can't stop flapping. He's really, really disciplined when he wants to be. So this thing about him like being this clown, this fool, no. He knows when he's letting stuff slip, he's letting stuff slip on purpose because he's very, very good at keeping the stuff he doesn't want to slip out very quiet. But I'm not sure he's going to be able to help himself. And, well, if he's not, well, the judge having given this order and then taken time out of his very, very, very busy day to have a one-on-one with his lawyers, Zoom call with the defendant to explain the order and answer every single potential question you can have. Well, that kind of sets the stage for the judge to hold 45 in contempt should he not be able to control his mouth.
And you know he can't. You know he's incapable of it. He's worse than me when it comes to holding his tongue. I at least know when I need to shut up so I don't get myself into more trouble. It's like, oh, I'm in a hole. I think I'll stop digging.
I love it.
It's
when you like somebody's version of hell is like, mine would probably be in a room full of chocolate chip cookies and there's no milk anywhere, right? So it's just like, I've got all this information to tell, all these secrets, and I can't just it's killing me. Love it. Okay. Our prime minister is traveling to Asia after last week becoming the first Prime Minister in Canadian history ever to travel to the northernmost community in Newfoundland and Labrador, Nain. The infrastructure needs in Canada's Inuit community have been assessed at greater than $75 billion total. $4 billion was committed to Indigenous housing in this year's budget. How much of it goes specifically to the Inuit is unclear at the moment. Natan Obed of Inuit Taparit Kanatami, this time I said it right, was correctly. Right. I was mentioning it the other day, and I wasn't sure if I had it correctly, so I looked it up again to make sure.
Get a phonetical pronunciation of it.
Yeah. Well, so it's was there and organized the whole trip, and then now the Prime Minister is off to Asia to a G7 summit in Japan, which will be interesting because there are 2 invited guests as observer nations, India and Brazil, who were once part of, well, maybe still are, probably still are, of an alliance called the BRICS nations, BRIC, B-R-I-C, S, I believe, with the other nations being Russia, China, and South Africa. So it is possible that India and Brazil may be exploring other options. The G7 might be opening itself up to the Southern Hemisphere. Because are any of the G7 nations in the Southern? No, they're not, right?
No, they're not.
So, of course, now Brazil and India are some of the most influential nations in the Southern Hemisphere, so they don't want to lose some of their influence. So, but it seems that
India
there may
being
be
the most populous,
right.
They've just surpassed China.
Yeah, so there might be something afoot in terms of trying to bring them in a little. Now, the BRICS was supposed to be an alliance that was going to be a countering force to the G7. So, yeah, that as again, I love the term, so I have to. I've stole it from Beau of the Fifth Column, but the international poker table where everybody's cheating. Brazil and India may want to be, or maybe exploring changing tables at the casino. Maybe.
Interesting.
Well, the G7 table is put on 2 other chairs. It says, why don't you come and sit with us for a while and see if you like it here. Very, very interesting things going on in the world scene. What else do we have? When we were talking about the floods as well, forgot to mention that happened a few weeks ago. But in Quebec, in the Charlevoix region, there were also some floods, and 2 firefighters who were trying to save someone had been swept away. So there was a funeral for one of them not too long ago. But again, many provinces have been hit, and there have been tough losses for people. And that brings me back, actually, Mr. Grizzly, to the thing that you showed me at the beginning with Skippy's video when he was answering that question, because in addition to the fire comment, he said again, that thing about, woke and broke. If you go woke, you go broke. And you have people like Roman Baber, who's, running for a seat somewhere in Toronto, going on a crazy diatribe. Woke is this, woke is that, woke is this, woke is that, and all the things he doesn't like. And
he's trying to redefine a word that he did not have any hand in actually bringing into the common vernacular. And it's been around since, is it the 30s, I believe?
Yeah, probably.
It's been around for a long time.
Long time. So, but if woke is broke and woke is taking action against climate change, all the people, if we don't take action against climate change, and these wildfires and floods and stuff keep happening. So when people lose their entire homes for not having been woke enough to do something about climate change, are they more or less broke than if they had gone woke?
Good question.
When their insurance premiums skyrocket because now they live in a flood zone that's been like flooded 3 times in the last 10 years, or a forest fire zone. It's been like 4 times and 2 times in the last 8 years. Yeah. Are they more or less broke than had they gone woke and tried to deal with climate change?
Yeah.
And when he's talking about the prime minister traveling all over the place, is this not the guy who's been spent the better part of a year campaigning for the job he currently has now on our dime, while still collecting salary and benefits and accruing his pension for doing no work as an MP? And is he
Yeah.
not the guy
Yeah,
now
his
campaigning
constituents are
to
not
be
pleased.
prime minister on our dime and on our time? Is
Mm.
filling our days and our airwaves every day with stupidity, like the prime minister's a tyrant and I'm going to bring home powerful paychecks and we're paying for this.
Yeah.
And charging us 50% more in 3 months to run his operations than the prime minister does, while screaming about if there's one person in the world that should not have a problem with the prime minister traveling on our dime.
What's going to happen?
Again.
I mean, seriously, like the way he rails on constantly about just inflation, just in this. Like, I mean, he obviously, Justin Trudeau lives in Pierre Poilievre's head, or Poilievre, whatever he wants to go by today. What would happen if he ever did get in as prime minister? Is he never going to travel? Is he never going to stay in a hotel? Is he never going to do any of the things that are required as part of the job?
He was
What would
asked
be
that
his
directly.
excuse?
He was asked that directly in the House of Commons.
And what did he say?
Pretend he didn't hear the question, of course.
Of course. Of course.
Peter, Polly is a cracker. Anyway.
Peter Poppenjay.
Polly's a cracker. Polly's a cracker.
Yes, Saucy, on this particular thing, woke is a term used by the black community, and it has been since I think the 40s, or it might even be the 1930s. I was reading about it the other day. It's been around for a very long time. And it's stay woke means about staying, paying attention to racial discrimination. Stay woke. But you've got idiot white. I'm trying to be polite here and not be sweary right now, but you've got idiot white people in political positions of power who want to co-opt the word and try and make it into be something bad when it's not bad. And yes, it does go back to the 1930s.
Yep, 1938, singer Huddie Ledbetter warned black people they, quote, best stay woke and keep their eyes open, going through Scottsboro, Alabama, the scene of a famous mistrial involving 9 young black men.
There you go.
The word was first defined in print by William Melvin Kelly, a black novelist, in an article published in the New York Times in 1962. Writing about black slang, Mr. Kelly defined it as someone who was, quote, well-informed and up-to-date.
So it's not new. It's been around long before any of us were born.
Well-informed and up-to-date.
But he doesn't want you to be woke. Of course Pierre doesn't want you to be woke.
Well-informed and up-to-date.
He doesn't want that. A well-informed public will make a decision that benefits their interests, not his. Which, well, what does that mean? Well, old Skippy will be put out to pasture.
Moo. Move over.
That's an old joke.
Oh,
I'm so hungry
man.
I could eat a cow. Well, moo moo, buckaroo.
Every time I think of Skippy, I keep on thinking of this TV show we had. It was probably Australian, but they dubbed it in French, called Skippy le Kangourou.
That's funny.
I don't know if people got it in English in Canada.
Probably not.
Yeah, Skippy the kangaroo. What else do we have here? Oh, the first WNBA game ever to be played on Canadian soil
Just sell out
happened
too.
over the course of the weekend. Yeah, completely sold out. It was teams from Chicago, the Chicago Sky versus the Minnesota Lynx, and Canadian WNBA player Bridget Carlton was part of the game. She got to play 12 minutes in the match, scored 3 points. This is the 27th season of the WNBA, and they are considering expansion.
Cool.
And Toronto is being eyed as a potential franchise location. So
Cool.
that's pretty cool as well.
I have I have something for you here because I used the term and it's and I knew this, but I wanted to get the verbiage right when I tell you what it. Buckaroo is an actual term for a cowboy in the Great Basin region, Great Basin and California region of the United States, and it's an anglicization of the Spanish word vaquero. So buckaroo is not just something you say; it's literally a title of a type of cowboy.
Cool stuff. Yeah. We have Kit Dan saying WNBA action is awesome, and Kit Pete has joined us. Hello, my friend.
Brother.
Big hugs. Lovely to see you. All right. More international news. There's been a lot of stuff going internationally, actually, this past weekend. Zelensky's been on a tour. He's been to Italy to see the Pope. He's been to Germany to see Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He's been to the UK to see Richie Sunak. He's been to France to see Emmanuel Macron. Germany made the biggest commitment of help yet. I think around 2.7 billion euros, around $4 billion Canadian, military equipment and stuff. France and the UK, of course, confirmed that they'll be with them. But the interesting one is the stop with the Pope, because we spoke of him about him earlier on, how the Pope was kind of disappointing us because he seemed to be holding his tongue. And it seemed to be that the principle was that he wanted to maintain good relations with Patriarch Kirill, who is the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church, Orthodox Catholic Church. But it seems that there was a method to his madness. He had thought that if he had been able to convince Patriarch Kirill to speak with Putin, that this may not be a good idea, that he could have some influence indirectly that way. But turns out that Patriarch Kirill is very, 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 very much pro-Putin. So that did not go anywhere. The Pope has been becoming more vocal, and he says that he now does have a peace plan that he's ready to present, not to the public yet, and that he is willing to speak with the aggressors because it would be silliness to close the only reasonable door open to peace. However, it appears that Putin is Pope, new phone, who this? Really, 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 really not interested in having a conversation with the pontiff at the moment. So that's where things stand over there. In Uganda, the government there is facing international pressure to not pass a bill introducing new criminal offenses for the LGBTQ community. Some of them which will have punishments as extreme as death.
You know where those rules and laws are coming from too, eh?
Yes.
The American right.
Yep.
That's what it is. Missionaries that go over there and spread this message of hatred. The Christian missionaries. That's exactly where it's coming from. This is not speculation. It's factual information.
This is something that seems to happen every few years in Uganda.
Yeah.
Now the U.S. has threatened to withdraw a key trade program if the bill becomes law. The African Growth and Opportunity Act is a preferential trade program that enhances market access to the nation. But to remain eligible for AGOA, nations must be working to improve when it comes to the rule of law and human rights. Uganda's exports of coffee, vanilla, and chocolate have grown under this agreement. However, the current president it calls homosexuality a, quote, foreign idea. Quote, the Western countries should stop wasting the time of humanity by trying to impose their practices on other peoples.
Wow.
Was his statement. He returned the bill to the Parliament requesting some amendments. I do not know if those amendments would make the bill somewhat significantly, meaningfully less harmful. But at this point, it seems that his signature is all that is required for it to become law. So,
Yikes.
yeah. Yeah.
I have something here that just came across my timeline.
All right.
Late stage capitalism. And I'll need to look into this a little bit further. Johnson & Johnson, a $400 billion company, created a shell company in Texas to hold all the liability for their carcinogenic baby powder, then filed for bankruptcy with the shell company. This is legal because corporations write our laws. 38,000 women will go without a settlement. This is what we call late stage capitalism. Again, I'm going to have to look into this a little bit further, but I have no reason to disbelieve that. I have no reason to disbelieve that whatsoever.
No, I have no reason to disbelieve it either.
And here's something that'll make you smile. Maybe.
Okay.
Crypto king arrested in Bahamas. Crypto clown still at large. Pierre Poilievre or Poilievre.
Yes. Apparently, Crypto King arrested in the Bahamas told the court, "Oh yeah, you should really just let my not have this trial, you know."
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think he applied to have the case dismissed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's gonna go over well. Good luck with that, buddy. Ooh, Kid Pete says sending something to you both.
I just got it in my Facebook
okay.
DM there. It's a really cool photo. Can I share that, Pete? I'll put it up if I can share it. Just find it
to
here.
get an answer on that.
Let's
Let's see. All right. Not a fun story.
Plenty of those.
It seems that the Ottawa Hospital has received over 1,000 birth alerts over the past 6 years, though the practice was supposed to end in Ontario in October of 2020. 300 have been received since then to past December, according to information revealed in a Freedom of Information request. All recent alerts are from the province of Quebec, and it is reported that the staff did not act on any of them. It's possible that the workers in Ontario had issued birth alerts on Quebec moms given birth in Ottawa, not knowing the practice had ended, because Quebec had become the last province to announce it would stop only a month ago. Only a month ago. Now, if you're wondering what birth alerts are, Ontario banned them in 2020. Birth alerts are alerts that the hospital sends out to Child Protection Services when mothers are at the hospital and give birth, when people, the staff, are concerned that the mother is high risk. And these policies, of course, disproportionately affect Indigenous and racialized mothers. Cora Maguire-Surette, the executive director of Ontario Native Women's Association, is quoted as saying, "It's disheartening to see these numbers. It kind of made me think about what the true number is, and not like across the province, but across Canada. We've heard stories about how they continue to be impacted by birth alerts and racism in the healthcare more broadly. To truly end this practice, we need to address the targeted racism and colonial and sexist ideologies that are perpetuating these policies." Yeah. But that's one of the ways that children got scooped away from people. Now, they're there.
Yeah.
For example, somebody that's going through a severe addiction to help kids. Oh, what a great photo.
Yeah, the wings.
And there's our friend Pete. On the right there.
Yeah, on the right with the blue T-shirt that says "Our All." Yeah. There's Pete. I'm sure a lot of you recognize him because he's been on the podcast a couple of times.
Yeah.
The Pubcast.
It's lovely to see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the story open here. It's from the Star Observer, Rainbow Community Angels to protect LGBT community at drag storytime events in Melbourne. I'll put a link to it right here.
Oh, good stuff. Way to go, buddy.
Well done, good sir.
Good sir. There you go. Democracy is something you do. Boom. There's an example of it.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Oh, good stuff, my friend. I'm so glad you did that. Way to go. Pizza good egg.
He's a good lad, He's a good lad.
I love that man. He's a good man. Yeah, so birth alerts. Good thing the practice is over. Yes, absolutely. Go get that coffee. And let's hope that they remain over because, not cool whatsoever. Little tidbit. It seems that Daddy Lonnie has hired a new CEO for Twitter. Wouldn't reveal who she was at first, and then eventually she did. And it seems that all the people that Daddy Lonnie has been courting for a while have lost their minds because though she is somewhat right wing, she is WEF associated. Ooh, World Economic Forum. And it seems that she is pro-mask and pro-vaccine. But she's also an expert at brand safe advertising.
It's actually a very good get. Like literally it's a good get, but it's people are losing their minds, right?
Right away. It's like, my God, if I knew you were going to get the lizard overlord lady to... Oh, man. Yeah. And basically, it seems that her plan is pretty much just to return Twitter to what it was before he started dicking around with it. So we have a situation a bit like Trump with that order. It's will Daddy Lonnie be able to keep his hands off it long enough to just let her do her work, or will he just hire her and keep on going? No, not like that. No, not like that. No, not like that.
Yeah.
He needs something else to occupy his time. He needs a new diversion.
So I had a conversation.
Because this toy did not work out for him.
I had a conversation Saturday afternoon with some young women who are one who lives like a block away from me. We've never met before. They're friends of my sister. And a couple who are moving just up the street from me. And I was saying, my car, I have like not even 24,000 kilometers on it. I've had 3.5 years. I live in a 15-minute city and I love it. And they're like, yes, it's awesome. We walk everywhere. We take transit when we need to, but that's pretty rare. And it's just great. I go, isn't it though? They're like, yeah. If we need to come visit friends, okay, that's different because people who live in the suburbs, like your sister here, I'm like, yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. But, I live in a 15-minute city and I love it. Oh, and yeah, by the way, I just went to New York State last weekend. I didn't have to show anybody anything to leave my 15-minute city. It's not a fenced-in region, people. That's not what a 15-minute city is. It means everything you need to live is within either a 15-minute walk or 15 minutes via transit.
I don't know, man. I'm still worried about living in District 5 and having to offer myself as tribute.
There's a new one coming out, eh? There's a new Hunger Games.
There is?
Yeah, and it's about the origin of the Hunger Games. It's the very first one. I just saw a trailer for it the other day. Viola Davis is in it. Is it Viola or Viola?
Viola.
Viola. Okay, Viola, and I love her. She's in it.
She recently scored an EGOT, by the way.
Yeah, she's one of the few people on Earth that have that. There's only like what?
Yeah,
9 people that have EGOT.
Oh no, more like maybe about 50.
Oh, is it that many? Really? I didn't think it was that many.
Yeah, I think so.
Either way, an EGOT is an Emmy, Golden Globe, Oscar, and Tony. It's not easy to get them all. No, not Golden
sorry,
Globe.
I was wrong. You were
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award.
Oscar, Tony. You were closer than I am. 18.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't many.
18 people have got an EGOT. So Richard Rogers and Hammerstein, Helen Hayes, Rita Moreno, John Gielgud, Audrey Hepburn, Marvin Hamlish.
John Gielgud got a Grammy?
It seems so.
Okay.
Grammy in 1979. It does not say what for, though. Have to check, but 1979,
Wow.
yeah, probably spoken word.
Oh yeah, Jennifer Hudson
Would
is
be
an
a guess.
EGOT as well. But Jennifer Hudson,
Yep.
I mean, she
Yeah.
primarily as a singer,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Jonathan Tunick, Mel Brooks, Mike Nichols, Whoopi Goldberg,
yeah.
Scott Rudin, Robert Lopez, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice, John Legend, Alan Menken, Jennifer Hudson, and Viola Davis, the latest one
Cool.
that the EGOT. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah.
District which
Let's see.
District 9 was the movie that was that the one that took place in Johannesburg, District 9?
In South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the one that took place in Paris? District B23, I think.
Cloverdale? Oh, B20.
Do you know the film I'm talking about?
No.
Where they were going to drop a nuclear bomb on it to destroy it, and
no, I don't know that
it's
one.
a French film.
Sorry, I thought you were joking.
It's a French martial arts film, parkour martial arts film. It's really cool. I mean, you don't watch it for the EGOT performances. You watch it for the martial arts and some of the monstrous human beings that are in it. There's one guy in it who was a former wrestler who was 7'4" and weighs about 500 pounds. He's like Andre the Giant, but I think he's actually a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Okay.
District B23 or District B19. Hang on, I'll look it up here. Now it's driving me crazy.
Yeah. Kid Daniel was talking about Jennifer Hudson. I can't show it here, but if you haven't seen it yet, you look at it on the web. There is a clip of Jennifer Hudson and I believe Tom Jones on the Voice UK, just improvising a duet of "It's a Man's World."
It's classic,
really good.
James Brown.
Yeah. They need to go in studio and record that.
District B13. Yeah, District 13. Yeah,
B13.
You want to see a really cool martial arts film, parkour martial arts, you name it. It's from 2004. It's written and produced by Luc Besson. So it's going to be good, right? It's a popcorn film. It's not. You don't watch it for the but you don't watch it for the performance. But what you do, the plot actually makes you think. That's plausible in the future. Plausible. If you
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, Luc Besson. I mean, gee, yeah, La Femme Nikita and The Fifth Element, and so yeah, The Transporter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So I mean,
Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, you get the idea of the style there.
Yes, the French Jason Statham is in it. You're right.
The French Jason.
David Bell. He plays the character of Leto, Leito, Leto. And he's kind of the French Jason Statham, but he's got a full head of hair. I think that's the only difference. And he's his character and is a badass parkour martial artist.
Really?
Yeah. Check it out. Wow. It's entertainment, right? It's unplug your brain and just watch it. It's worth your time. What is it? A 2-hour film? Hang on. I think I have it on some sort of media format playback. It's either DVD or.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. I just saw a picture of David Bell. Yeah, he definitely is. Oh, wow.
You watch Luc Besson films for the entertainment factor, right? And that's what they are. They're always over the top entertaining.
It's like Michael Bay films, right?
Yeah. The Transformers movie, you don't watch it for the story. You watch it for the visual entertainment.
All right. Couple of other little things if we have time.
We got time.
It seems that Canada is trying again for another big seat at the UN. After trying to get a seat on the Security Council twice and failing, it seems that Canada is attempting to get a seat on the Human Rights Council. Melanie Joly is quoted as saying, "There's a clear backlash happening around the world as we speak when it comes to human rights, and we just can't stand idle, just screaming from the sides basically that we should be doing something without rolling up our sleeves and getting involved." Canada's main problem with securing seats has been its lack of presence in Africa. every country has an equal vote, and there are over 50 countries on the African continent. In the last budget, our foreign aid envelope was cut $1.3 billion compared to last year. Now, that's because that was pandemic level funding where we were funding vaccines and also helping with the war in Ukraine, which in terms of food supplies, to get to Kenya and Somalia and stuff. But the perception and other help that we're giving in Ukraine, but that we don't have to give this year or that we're giving different, but it makes that the foreign aid envelope goes down. And if you're just looking at that number, well, it doesn't do much to help curb the impression from the African nations that, well, we're not feeling the foreign aid thing all that much. Now, there's the other thing that in 2018, the Human Rights Council did send some rapporteurs to Canada to do an assessment of our obligations with regard to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities, and they found that we did not fix the disparities in the justice system with regard to providing equitable service to Indigenous peoples. The voice of Indigenous peoples will probably weigh heavily in whether or not we get a seat, because I'm guessing the council will come back and ask leaders of the group how well we've done on that since they've come and done their report in 2018. The vote will take place in 2026, so this is the amount of runway that you need if you're going to mount a serious campaign to try and get there for a 2-year term seat available from 2028 to 2030. So odds are this government probably won't even be in power by the time we actually occupy the seat when we get it. If we get it. And I'm not sure how we do manage to get it without making a serious commitment to the African continent.
I don't know.
So, but we're throwing our hat in the ring again. So there you go. Let's see. What else do we have? That's pretty much all I have.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. There's an in Serbia, because there had been a couple of mass shootings there as well. Over there, the government has offered an amnesty on weapons, which has returned 13,000 of them so far in the first few days. Weapons including automatic weapons, hand grenades, and even anti-tank rocket launchers.
Whoa.
Have been returned. Residents have 1 month to return unregistered weapons or face prison sentences.
Wow, that's heavy.
Conservatives here complaining that we're asking for registrations and banning a few and offering to buy them back.
Well,
this is how they do it in other places.
Here's a little.
You got 1 month to hand them back, register them, hand them back, or you go to jail. That's how they do it in other places.
Here's a little visual aid for you. I'll put this on the screen and I'll read it out for the people listening to the audio version. It is a multi-panel cartoon or comic, I guess. What if we treated every young man who wants to buy a gun like every woman who wants an abortion? 48-hour waiting period. Doctor's note proving awareness, parental permission, forced viewing of a video showing effects of gun violence, close all but one gun shop or make him travel across state lines, force time off work and stay overnight there, make him walk a gauntlet of protesters telling him not to do it. Interesting. So the pro-life people very often also tend to be pro-Second Amendment people.
Right.
How do they feel about this? I'd love to know. I would love to know. Because I'll bet you they'd be like, well, no, the Second Amendment cannot be infringed upon. Yeah, and that was supposed to be updated 20 years after it was written by the guy who wrote it, who said we should update it every 20 years.
Right.
And it's never been touched.
Yep.
And you can't touch the Second Amendment, as Jim Jeffries pointed out. Yes, you can. That's why it's called an amendment.
Yeah, and that's why it's not the first.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why it's not in the preamble of the Constitution when they say like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's because it comes after all that.
Yes.
More world news from around the world. The most powerful cyclone to hit the Bay of Bengal in years has landed in Bangladesh and Myanmar. And the main concern is that the trajectory of the storm seemed to be colliding with the world's largest refugee camp, often known as Cox's Bazar. It's a refugee camp that houses over 1 million Rohingya Muslims who had to flee, and it was right in the path. Storm surges as high as 4 to 6 meters happened. Winds of up to 240 kilometers an hour had already been recorded. Amazingly, nobody in the refugee camp died. And the last I heard, only 3 people in the entire area died as a result of it. Lots of destruction, of course, flimsy constructed houses and whatnot, but not very much loss of life as reported yet. Clearly, preliminary data. But yeah, there is a lot of people white knuckling it there. Specifically in that refugee camp.
1 million people in a refugee camp.
Yeah, it's just
wild.
It's wild. It appears that our intelligence agencies have started contacting MPs to let them know whether or not there have been threats against them or movement against them. And the first 2 to get the call, who have let us know at least, are the NDP's Jenny Kwan and Aaron O'Toole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, Aaron O'Toole had, remember a lot of people, critics said that one of the reasons he did lose the campaign, particularly in BC, is because his policies didn't only seem very anti-China, but anti-Chinese. So it seems that the PRC had noticed it as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know how much, it's going to be up to every MP to let people know whether or not they did get a call and, how public they want to go with that type of thing.
Do you not see the irony there, though? Because it was his party that he was a part of that signed FIPA.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, I know. This is the thing, right? It's like you signed the deal. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is that they're all complaining about this 2016 thing to the Trudeau Foundation. It's like, this is at a time when all of us, 4 years earlier, 2 years before the donation, the FIPA deal came into effect. It's like,
in secret.
We thought it was a good thing. We thought it's 40 years before the donation. You thought it was a good idea to sign a 31-year deal with China. So if you thought we were okay with China for the next 31 years, certainly a donation 4 years later
should have been fine, right?
Should have been completely fine, right? And we also remember the history that Trudeau, father, was pretty much one of the first to establish some type of relationship to recognize China, which led to Nixon going to China and all that kind of stuff. So there is great debt and gratitude in China to the former prime minister for that. So it would not be surprising that 2 businessmen, turns out that the businessmen were father and son, the 2 donations, would want to make a donation. So none of this, and as Alexandre Trudeau says, he has no sense whatsoever from the 2 people that there'd be any reason to doubt their motives. There are over 1 billion people in China. Not everybody is a puppet of the party, right? It's like, so it is statistically possible that 2 people in a country of over 1 billion could have been of, good heart and fair intention.
Well, it's like if you go back to Germany in the 1939, 1945, the World War II, you're going to tell me that every single German was a Nazi?
Oskar Schindler.
What was the Tom Cruise movie from a few years ago, Valkyrie? They had a plot to kill Hitler because they knew it was wrong. And they tried several times, actually, and he was the closest, which is what the film... But there were several attempts on Hitler's life.
Yeah. So,
you can't paint everybody with the same brush.
Can't paint everybody with the same brush. But it's just so, and it seems that the consultations on the foreign agent registry are now over, and that there will probably be some, I guess, some draft legislation really, really, really soon. So there you go. The other news that has come out interesting is that the TMX pipeline that the federal government bought from Kinder Morgan in 2018 after it had pulled out, at the time was expected to be completed at the cost of $7 billion.
Costs have risen.
Delays, COVID, shipping, everything, costs have ballooned, and now it's between $31 to $35 billion. The pipeline is significantly leveraged with debt up to $23 billion, mostly from Canada's big banks. It will not have trouble securing more debt because it is backed by the federal government. And it is said that it needs to secure more money pretty quickly, or else it will have to let go of some people, and the project will be even more delayed than it is now.
Skippy tried to make hay about that in the House of Commons the other day by going, it was $7 billion, now it's $30 billion. What's happening? I'm like, what did your government do again to get this built?
Raised money off it while complaining about activist judges, and decided not to consult with the Indigenous communities as the activist judges had told them to.
Yeah.
I believe is what they did. Yes, and the real reason that they're mad is that it's in the process of getting built, and once it is built, they won't be able to raise any money off it anymore, because now they will have a tight pipeline. So that's why they're really mad. So it seems that, however, when it comes time for the federal government to sell it, we probably will be selling it at a loss. And Finance Canada says the pipeline's taken on debt in the short term in order to increase profits in the future. I would have to research more and figure out what that means, whether or not that's just a line, or whether or not they've made upgrades or ordered improvements to it to increase capacity or something that have ballooned costs and delayed things. And that's why taking on more debt in the short term is, we're increasing capacity or something. There's a reason for that other than just costs have gone up. Or whether or not that's just been, I don't know. So I can't tell you how credible that statement is. However, we are now in a situation, again, where a province that says that Ottawa, and particularly Liberals, hate them, have now spent, or will have spent, 31 to 35 billion of all of our tax dollars in order to bring oil to Tidewater. Probably for another peak 20 to 30 years, maybe 35.
Well, I can almost guarantee you, if the Conservatives get in the next federal election, and there's a possibility because of leader fatigue, right? If they get in, and Jim's got a point here, he's saying, we'll sell it the way we did nuclear reactors, pay SNC hundreds of millions of dollars to take it away from us. Damn well that's what the Conservatives will do. They'll just turn around and sell it. Kind of like how the Conservative government in the province of Ontario sold off the Highway 407 to a Spanish company who gets to profit off of it for it's more than 30 years. What was the time frame?
Not sure on that one.
It's a long time. Something like that. Yeah.
Yes. And then there were fines for up to $1 billion, and they just
waived that. Doug Ford waived the $1 billion fines. And it was also the costs were not supposed to increase exponentially, but they did. Imagine that. A private for-profit corporation increased their profit margin. So privatizing highways is a terrible freaking idea.
Yeah. Kit Jeb's going on the water treatment facilities. That I believe has changed. I believe in the deals that the federal government has been doing with regard to water treatment facilities, because before that used to be the deal. But now they have actually, along with the funds to build the facilities, there are pots of funds for repairs, management, and operation of them as well, to help pay for the staff locally to do that. So They don't just build it and then don't upkeep it, and then 5 years later the plant, something's wrong with it and it can't be used, and then we're going back to the old system again. So it seems that this time they've developed a plan that addresses that. Fingers crossed it works. All right. So we've got a situation now where the federal government is spending $31 to $35 billion to bring oil to Tidewater and still getting no love or respect.
Look, there's nothing this government does. Nothing. Not a single thing. They could find the cure for cancer tomorrow, and the current crop of Reform Party people who call themselves conservatives would find fault with it. Nothing this government does, they will praise. Not a single thing. Nothing.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Nothing stops them from going, well, you know what? Now this is getting too pricey. We're out. You don't get your pipeline.
Mhm.
So
then they'll lose.
This is how hard they are working to get that damn thing. Imagine how much pipeline they would have had Harper and PP and friends worked this hard to actually get any pipe laid to Tidewater.
Laying pipe.
During that. I went there during that decade.
All night long. That's a David Wilcox song. I'm laying pipe to satisfy that woman. Don't you remember that song? Laying pipe? David Wilcox.
I do not know that one, I have to say. Nope. Don't know that one at all.
Do the bear cat.
All right. And all right. We have a show, Mr. Grizzly?
We do. I got to get into the office in like 5 minutes. So.
Okay. Last little tidbit, if you happen to be into it, the Eurovision Song Contest took place. The winner was Sweden this year. A singer named Loreen for a song called Tattoo. It's actually her second Eurovision win as a songwriter, which is kind of rare. It's only happened once before. She won in 2012. The contest was supposed to be held in Ukraine this year because last year the song Stefania from Ukraine had won, but given the war, it couldn't be held there, so they held it in the UK, which was the country that finished second last year. President Zelensky is on the record saying that he wished it had been held in Poland instead, though, which would have allowed more people who had displaced to actually attend.
This is true.
So there you go. Yep, there you go. All right, kids, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to this because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So let your peeps know about us because democracy is something that you do. Again, keep writing, everyone that we asked you to, MPs, MPPs, MLAs, senators, members in the media, Danielle Smith in particular, and let them know that you're not down for a lot of the stuff and that you demand better and more quality reporting and better policy and all that good stuff. And of course, the government has now recently announced matching programs to go with Red Cross donations. So if you haven't yet, please help your neighbors, our fellow Canadians, by being generous.
We're on the verge of a milestone here.
Oh, we
Population of Canada, real-time model, 39,898,993. Oh, look at this. In respect to Skippy's love affair with Elon Musk, we've just surpassed it, 39,899,069. We're just shy of 40 million. Just like literally by tomorrow, we will surpass. We'll be at 39,900,000 by tomorrow.
Woohoo! More of us. If you really like this podcast, what are we gonna do today, Grizzly? Same thing we do every day.
Try to take over the world.
If you really like this podcast, you can find us on Crier Media Network as well as all Beaver Grizzly platforms. And if your platform is not Beaver Grizzly friendly, why the heck are you on it?
Yeah, you gotta tune us in, man.
Yeah, man. Stars and reviews are appreciated, so please be generous. Make those stars rain down on us. We love to hear from you, so please reach us on our Facebook blog page, True North Eager Beaver, our Twitter feed at TrueEager or by email via truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us via our pod page, podpage.com, the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters, a hyphen between each one of those words, and we'll come straight to you when we have something fresh off the bandwidth. Why not also subscribe to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel? That helps us out big time. We're trying to reach 1,000 so that we can start monetizing it. Every subscription helps us. And if you are familiar with us here at the Beaver Lodge, then you know that right about now, Kit Elaine is telling you to smash that button before you leave.
She just did.
Essential service.
She just did.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you. Thank you. Very essential service. And we can't do this without, see, all the kits pitch in. Many hands make light work.
Indeed.
And if you, yes, we can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show, bringing you the news not formally from Canada, but the world today, well, then you can scan that QR code to which Mr. Grizzly is pointing, and that will bring you to our emergency hot chocolate fund and coffee fund, because we need to keep caffeinated and hydrated. It's very, very important. This show is fueled on coffee and chocolate.
And eventually Guinness, but that's later in the day. I don't have Guinness for breakfast.
Sometimes copious amounts of guilt. But
it's an Irish Catholic thing is what that is, I'll tell you.
Hello. Oh, by the way, hello, Mr. Grizzly's mom. Happy belated Mother's Day. And happy belated Mother's Day to all the mamas.
Oh, that's right. It was yesterday. No, I went and saw my mom. Yes. Don't be ridiculous.
Well, I know you did. I know you did. You're a good boy.
Man, I'm a man. I'm 54 years old. I'm a man.
To your mama, you're a good boy.
I suppose.
To your mama, you're a good boy.
Well, your birthday's coming up.
It is. Just a few days to go.
You're going to be 50.
Just a few days to go. I'm going to be 50. But first, my Beaver Sweetie's birthday.
Oh, is this before yours?
Yes, 2 days before.
Oh, wow.
That's house with two Taurus. Yeah. No butting heads here at all.
No, never.
None.
Never would happen.
The only worst would be two Aries. two Crabs. Fortunately, we have compatible crazy, so that works. So, yeah. And if you are listening, then you can let your fingers do the walking to coffee. That's coffee spelled ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all one word. And that's where you can make your donation. We really appreciate them very much. And it all goes back into the show. So
it does.
Thank you. Yeah. Merch, still working on it, kids. Still working on it. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until the next time, dear kids. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with you. Okay, what happened now? You just lost it.
I'm trying to post it on the screen. It won't post. There it is.
What is it?
From PNC Bio. I'm okay with hot chocolate, but not the coffee. And as a conservative, I can't donate to something that promotes drug abuse.
If we promise to buy decaf PNC,
I ain't drinking it. I ain't drinking it if it's decaf. What's the point? I guess, you can say, what's the point of drinking de-alcoholized beer or alcohol-free beer? Well, the point is I like the taste of it, number one. And number two, the new stuff actually tastes like beer. And number three, I don't drink pop. So I want something that's not water or coffee. I'll have a non-alcoholic beer.
If we do this, if we ever do get this coffee bean company, I think we might have to make a Grizzly caffeinated bean for when you're up, and a decaffeinated bean is like, Grizzly needs to calm down.
Well, I'll have to have a conversation with and I think they would be friendly to us as a sponsor, Happy Goat Coffee Company, because they're just around the corner from me, and they were vandalized during the occupation because they had
It's true.
The flag in their window, pride flag, and somebody smashed the window because of it. So it's like, no, they're part of our community. They're a local business. They do very, very well. They have the best coffee in town, in my opinion.
Are they outside Ottawa at all?
No, just an Ottawa region. They may expand in the future, but for now they're local, and they're expanding. More. They're actually, I don't know if so. It was announced pre-pandemic that they were going to have in 4 locations on the LRT. They were going to have stores that would have coffee and treats, because Yes, for your
there's one in the
commute, there
Rideau
was nothing available. But I think I do believe that they should be open soon. But don't quote me on that. I haven't been on the LRT in a bit. So
There's one in the Rideau Center open.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, the LRT.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, at Rideau.
Good.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So I would assume
right.
that the one at Herdman and those were probably open as well then.
Yeah. All right. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your eager beaver saying, until next time, dear kits, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom before we go?
Yeah. If you are like me and loading up on allergy medication right now and you find it makes you drowsy, please do not operate heavy machinery. Maybe don't get behind the wheel of your automobile if you're not clear-headed, because that could be to your detriment. So, put your seatbelt on, wear a condom, and have somebody drive for you.
There you go. And Kit Jim says they ship, so that's good enough. If Happy Coffee is willing to ship, then
yeah, Happy Goat Coffee, best coffee in town, in my opinion. And we would love to have them sponsor us, and I think they might be friendly with us. I should I'll try and find some contact information to put you in touch, because that's your end of the business. I take care of the production and the electronics and all the tech stuff, and Mr. Beaver takes care of all of the stuff like that. Unless, of course, I have an automatic connection.
I take care of all. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm told I've got a little bit of charm. I don't know. I'm a great sales rep. I literally don't want, I don't need to take on more of it, is what I'm saying. Like all the production end of things and editing and that, it's already enough of a full-time gig that I don't need to take on more. So it's like, you take care of that part, I'll take care of this part, and we'll make this thing work.
That sounds good to me. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please roll them credits.
I will do that, sir.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
I love that music. It makes me happy. Yeah.
Oh, that is the idea.
Got Keith Dan going, what's wrong with us airways? There are very fine people on all sides.
Okie dokie, Smokey. See ya.
See ya.